WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. And today I have the Glen Scotia seasonal release 2022, the 12-year-old age statement, non-chilled filtered, natural color, cask strength Glen Scotia whiskey. Congratulations, Integrity Whiskey here. Now, this is Whiskybase number 219523, and we have 11 years in first fill bourbon casks and 12 months in Amontillado sherry butts. Now, Amontillado is a sherry type that I'm not particularly fond of, to be honest. All right. So if we go over here to my wonderful sherry, Pedro Jimenez, love that. Moscatel, yummy. Palo Cortado, absolute my thing. Oloroso, sometimes not. Fino, to a good, like fish, maybe. Manzanilla. It's basically Fino just in a city, one in the harbor, a little bit saltiness. And then we have what we have today. We have our Amontillado. It starts off underneath that layer of flor. Flor, F-L-O-R, is just yeast. So it has no contact with the air, so not an oxidization process like Oloroso and other types of whiskey, other types of sherries do. And then Amontillado, it is then first aged under flor, and then it's exposed to oxygen, so it gets a little bit of a darker moment than the Fino, but it is much lighter than Oloroso, which is the entire time oxidizing with the air. So there are some that are very naturally dry and some that are a little bit more sweet. Now, what am I going to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to last year's Glen Scotia 12-year-old seasonal release from 2021. This, by the way, has 54.7% ABV. This is 53.3. Yay! All right. So now, if I just look at the bottles, I will see that they are a little bit different. The first thing that I realized was, wait a second, everything looks similar, but everything looks different. So first of all, we have the size of the label. Very much smaller here. So the second thing is the bottle itself. At the top here, we do not have any markings on the bottle, whatever. But down below, we have this big crest in the bottle. Now, this actually, if I can look at this, it makes the bottle thinner. So I don't know if that's what we actually want. So if that would be a critical break point. Over here, instead of making anything thinner, it makes it actually thicker. So we have since 1832 at the top here, and I like that a little bit better. All right, so same identical bottle design, the shape, no problem there, but just different bottles. So we have a larger place for the sticker. Here is a much smaller place. Now, if you look at the boxes as well, you'll notice that here we have the white Glen Scotia, pops out a little bit more. Here we have it in the gold color, in the black on the gold. And the next thing you notice is, oh, look, they have a nice little since 1832 over here underneath there. Yay! And then the biggest design was on the side. All this real estate unused here. Glen Scotia. Wonderful. On both sides. All right, both sides were unused. And then on the back, you have, it looks almost the same. It looks a little bit different. The barcode at the bottom is a little bit smaller. But other than that. Now, the biggest difference is now, oh, by the way, 6 years ago when I started out my whiskey journey, I would never have been talking about these design changes and the boxes in the bottle. I now import and I present at fairs and so on, and how the bottle feels and how the information is presented, I think is very important. All right, so that's why I'm talking about that. Now, the last thing that I thought was very important was the write-up, the blurb. All right, so very interesting enough, the graphic, the marketing people here were more in charge because it starts off with a lot of blah blah. about Campbelltown being, one of the unofficial region. It talks about the community in Campbellton, blah blah. And then at the bottom, the very very last paragraph talks about the whiskey I'm buying. So I have to read all this to know what I have. Over here, it starts off with the nice little bringing together a series of unpeated distillation from up to 2009. This seasonal spirit was matured in first fill bourbon cask and American oak hogsheads. After 11 years maturation, it has then been finished for 12 months in first fill Oloroso hogsheads and heavily charred American oak barrels before being married prior to bottling at cask strength. That is something a whiskey lover would write. All right, so if I go real quickly over here, at the very bottom, I'm going to read what they wrote here. This 12-year-old unpeated spirit has been matured in first fill bourbon barrels before a final 12-month finish in Amontillado sherry casks. The result is a warm, nutty dram. Why are you giving me tasty notes? I don't need them. But, all right, so I guess your goal is no longer the whiskey aficionado, but more or less the supermarket people that need that, all right? A warm, nutty dram with long, lingering vanilla notes and a mildly dry finish. Subtle maritime nuances on the nose and palate transport you to Campbelltown as if walking along on our harbor in winter. Natural color and bottled at cask strength, it's a true taste of our home. As I said, this write-up was much, much more what I was looking for. All right, so that's just me and my things that I'm curious about. Over here, I don't know how many bottles were the first one, the 2021, but I do know, according to Whiskybase, that I had 14,000 bottles of this for the world. 700 milliliters bottles everywhere in the world now. You can send them to Canada, US, South Africa, Germany, Europe, China, Japan, wherever. All right, so here, 79 euros. This used to be 74 euros 90. Now, there's two things that happens basically when bottles I'm going to go to the end of their shelf life. Not because it spoils, but because, hey, there's not that many bottles left in stock. So two things happen. At the one shop where I used to live up in Itzehoe, they have now received this. They put it on the shelves for 82 euros 90, and they reduced the price from 79 down to 69. So a clearance sale. Get rid of the old, bring in the new, which I think is just fine. Other stores have now said, oh, instead of going down on the price, reducing it, clearing them out, we're going to raise the price up to 89 euros and try to wait till that we're one of the last, because people try this and are like, oh, okay. And then, oh, last year's was much, but I'm just going to buy one of those again. And that second bottle might actually cost more, or it might actually cost less, depends on where you go shopping. So please use some type. What I do is I like to use internet portals that actually do price comparisons. Even with whiskey over here, it's possible. Whiskybase is a good place to see what the prices on average are and where you can go for that. And maybe just ask some of your buddies in an online forum, hey, what's a good price for this? All right. So now on the nose, the Amontillado, I think really, really comes through. Now, I actually have done a sherry tasting where I had all the different types of sherry. Have I mentioned I'm not particularly fond of Amontillado? That smells like Amontillado. All right, so if you like it, this is going to be whiskey for you. If you don't like it, maybe not. Now this, the Oloroso sherry and the heavily charred American barrels, very, very nice. Now, maybe you're asking yourself, what is a heavily charred American barrel? Oh, it's very simple, you would say. It's an alligator char 4. No, it's not. But Jason, yes, it is. No, it's not. So, Glen Scotia belongs to the Loch Lomond Group. The Loch Lomond Group, they have their own cooperage. So what we do is we have a barrel in America. We use it for, let's say, 4 years to get a straight bourbon. Boom. After 4 years, it's therefore then sent to Scotland. It's going to be used there, let's say, for 11 years for this. First fill bourbon, 11 years. So we now have 15 years of age. It's going to be used again, a second time in Scotland for the third time. I'm just going to say another 12 years. All right, so we're up to 27 years. And then it's probably going to be used a third time. All right, So for the blend industry and so on, we're going to leave that in there for another 13 years. All right, so this cask has been used for a minimum of 40 years, sometimes even longer. And after the third time, it's like a tea bag. After you've used it four times, there's nothing left in there. All right, so what they do at what they've specialized in at Loch Lomond Cooperage is to actually rejuvenate old, tired oak, American oak casks. So they can scrape off a lot of the char. And then after they scrape that off, heads on both sides removed, they scrape that out. There's actually a machine that goes in there with a chisel and just and creates a nice, wonderful, fresh wood layer. It doesn't go down the red line, but it does shave off maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe a millimeter or two, so maybe even a half an inch. And then they re-char the inside of that barrel. And they heavily re-char the inside of the barrel. They don't toast it, they just char it usually, and then they create that alligator. They create a level 3, a level 4 char again. And so that is a heavily charred barrel from American oak in the case of Loch Lomond and Glen Scotia. Now, other distilleries, Tullibardine, they have their own cooperage, very, very interesting. Balvenie, I think, have their own cooperage, very, very interesting. Other places also have their own cooperage. Many people work together. Speyside cooperage there. It's very, very interesting how we can prolong the life of a cask, because do we want to burn it? No, this is useful. This is good wood, and so why not? Why not use heavily charred casks? And I thoroughly, thoroughly like this flavor profile. This is for me a C plus. This on the nose is for me a D plus. Not to do with Glen Scotia. I was there this May, May 2022, and I must really admit, we were at 12 different distilleries on our tour of Scotland, and one of the distilleries that remains in my memory, the most vivid, was Glen Scotia. And in the morning we were at Glengaya, which is Kilkerran. I really liked that distillery, but it was off season, so it was closed. We were at Springbank. They were actually working on that day. And what really was the word that stuck in my mind, one word: worn down, tired, almost dirty. All right, Springbank did not leave a great impression with me. All right, so we went over to Glen Scotia in the afternoon, and what the word that I really, really felt when I was at there: passion. The people working the stills, Ian, the distillery manager there, the people in the gift shop, passion. They were absolutely passionate about their whiskey, and they're trying much more to make an excellent, excellent whiskey. So, and that's why I want to love this whiskey, even though I'm not a big fan of Amontillado. So that's why I got a D plus. Not the whiskey itself, but the finish. The finish is very evident. The finish is also very strong here, and that shows through. All right, let's try this. 53.3%. Mm-hmm. The whiskey itself is influenced strongly. I didn't want to say dominated. I almost did. Influenced strongly by the Amontillado cask, that sherry casks. That's what the whiskey should be like, right? Unfortunately, if you have ice cream, I don't know if you have ice cream, but there's different ice cream flavors. And imagine you hate strawberries, and you have a strawberry ice cream. And it's like, okay, it's strawberry. And that is Amontillado. And the flavor of the distillate is fairly covered. It's got the dryness. It's got a little bit of that, like a yellow raisiny moment going on there. It's never going to be my friend. D plus for the taste, not my profile. If this is your profile, if you like Amontillado, you're going to love this. All right. So let's go over here to the Oloroso and the heavily charred. A little bit higher proof with 54.7. Mm-hmm. What strikes me is in direct comparison, this is, even though it's higher proof, much, much smoother. I know many people don't like that word. Um, I think there's two reasons for that. The first reason, it does say here on the back, bringing together a series of unpeated distiller distillations from up to 2009. So there is, I think, I can taste it at least, and I assume that there is whiskey in here that is older than 12. I have the feeling that this was all basically from 2010, so exactly 12 years. And oh, let's look real quick. When was this bottled? So this was bottled here um, on the 25th of August 2022. So if anything that was distilled in August up to, in 2010 up to August could be used here, and this has some older stuff in there as well. And secondly, I think those heavily charred American oak barrels did their magic on this whiskey. You can mature a whiskey quicker in these freshly rejuvenated casks than you can in a sherry butt, for example. Just more wood surface fluid contact makes a difference. So this is for me still a C++, and the taste on a good day maybe even a B minus. Value for money, C minus. 75 euros is a lot of money for a 12-year-old whiskey, in my opinion, even though it is cask strength. Now, 79 euros is even more money for a whiskey that I don't prefer. And it has nothing to do with the whiskey itself. It has to do with that finishing that's going on here. My question of the day is, the very, very first time, as far as I'm aware, oh, by the way, good job. Here, seasonal release 2022. Here, seasonal release. So there's no 2021 here. So you don't know which one you have. And also in the back, here it says 2022 in very large letters. Here, nothing. Well done. I like the newly designed bottle much better. So my question of the day is, what is going to be the seasonal release 2023? Now we can only project, prophesy, guess, forecast, whatever. I'm going to say it could be anything, but I'm going to say double oak. What's double oak, Jason? Think of American double oak. Yeah, we have 11 months in a first fill bourbon, and then we put it for another 12 months in a second first fill bourbon cask. That's going to be my guess. They could have gone for port, Tawny, or ruby. They could have gone for any type of the sherries. They could have gone for a Zaltan. They could have gone for any type of fortified wine. Amarone, Mazala, what do we have here? Mazala, Mazala. Yeah, there's so many different things they could have. Rum, anything they could have gone. Like tequila, mezcal, even Bordeaux. I mean, there's all these different possibilities we would have for a 1-year finishing. I hope that they do a little bit of an experimenting and showing us what's possible and showing us the different things that are there. I love the 12 years. I love the non-chill filtered and the no color added natural color, and I love the fact that these are cask strength. I think that's really, really special. And so continue. I would love to do one day a tasting that I would have a bottle stashed away of this. Yes, I would have a bottle stashed away of this. And I'd have the next one and the next one, and maybe after 6 years I can just do a tasting of all 6 and really do a development of the distillery over 6 years. I think that would be cool. All right. So Whiskey Jason here, excited about the distillery, excited about this product, but yet sometimes it hits my palate, sometimes it misses my mark. Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling others, and sharing. And I hope you get your hands on this, or on this, or on the 2023 version that might come out, and hopefully it'll come out. And if you ever get the chance to go to Campbelltown, please, 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 please also do a tour of Glen Scotia. It's worth it. Beautiful, beautiful people there. Wonderful distillate and a great, great spirit. All the best. Bye-bye.